Hey everyone, welcome to another devlog episode on my current game. It's been 4 weeks from my last devlog, so without further ado, let's get into the video. So guys, in the game I could not make a massive change on level wise because I had some other issues as obviously in the game. If I tell you guys, the first major issue I had was the adding different levels in the game. My first idea was to make all different levels in different scenes, and actually that's what I have already implemented so far. If you wonder what it means, well, you will start from one scene and at the end of one task or a level, you just jump into a different scene, like in the game Super Meat Boy. So you have a menu to choose different levels when you have won a particular level. So in this way, the entire game is tagged to different spaces or scenes. But anyhow, in that way, I had several problems. Like for example, the camera was not working properly while switching between two scenes. And also I think having multiple scenes breaks the continuous flow of the game. I think continuous games are great. So instead of having several game scenes, I made the entire environment graphics in the same scene. But now the problem is that having a large graphic in the same scene would probably reduce the performance of the game. Somehow, finally I got a nice way to handle it. I simply split the entire environment to several fields and made them to be disappeared when player is no longer in that field. Now the game is not something like Super Meat Boy, which is having different individual levels, but extends continuously. So I think this is working fine so far, and now I can add different fields in the game and expand the game. Next major thing I did in the game, guys, I made an opening level for the game. As you can see, I made some kind of weird machinery stuff. I also have an idea to make an animation where players spawn from that machines and drop to the roof and finally fall into that down basement where a bunch of other players are dead. I created this dead player's background, so it kinda looks like the current player is the chosen one to get going. But still I wanna make some intro animation for that, so it will express the feeling very well. But I don't have a super sharp idea about the intro animation yet, but guys, we'll see it in future episode for sure. In the first part of the game, I mainly focus on getting some simple tasks for the player, like jumping over a simple pit and dragging something or opening a door to get some idea about the game. Actually the player movements are a bit tricky at first cause the player's physics motions make it a bit harder to control the player. Also, I had some issues that the player was not jumping smoothly if we try to jump at a very edge of a ground, but later I polished jumps and motions of the player by adding few extra codes, so now he can jump from the edges without falling or any weird looking. In this new way, players will still be able to jump just after we fall from the ground for a second. It sounds really smart, right? Because I've been trying to fix that issue for days until I found it from YouTube. So now jump is fixed, but still we have a bit of a problem with movement. Because when player starts to move, it takes a second to get to the final velocity. And so to stop, it takes some time too. So you might feel some uncomfortable with the play at first, but I'm sure that feeling won't last longer and it's going to be super easy to play, like the game Super Meat Boy. With that being said, let's talk about some of interesting stuff I added to the game. So I made some electric choking device. I don't know what to call it in English, but when player hits it, he will die instantly. So I added these electric lighting effects and some sparks with Unity's particle system to make it a little bit realistic, but it didn't come up very well, so I added camera shaking effects and some sound effects, so finally it came like this. And I also made some wall platforms that are controlled by switches, so when we hit the switches by jumping over it, the platform is coming through the wall like this. Moving platforms are really great, we can use them later on in the game to make tasks complicated. So if you have some ideas about puzzles or traps, please let me know in a comment. I will probably add them in the game. If you remember guys, I had a problem with player's health system previously, in which I have implemented that the player is healed when he is in light and damaged while he is in dark. So for that I got some ideas from Discord. So someone has said that
the health system has some flaws. Some puzzles that takes a lot of time to do or tricky ones will probably run into problems of running back and forth to the light and continuing the puzzles.
I think that is correct because sometimes it'd be really hard to deal with some tasks with that health system. So I finally completely removed that function and now player is not damaging automatically but only from traps. But now I have to figure out a way to heal the player. Anyways, thank you Mr. Raven Maffel for your opinion, and apart from that I also managed some sound effects for different objects. Obviously that's not the final touch, I gotta change them later on. but for now I think let's leave them as is. So with that being said guys, that's almost all about the current state of the game. I know that's not a lot for a month of development, but I will be able to make a lot more than this for my next video for sure. I still have some bugs in camera system and parallel surface which actually I couldn't figure out yet, but I will fix them and create more fun stuff for my next develop. So that's pretty much it for this video guys, and I will see you in my next episode. So until then, have a nice day.